The House Oversight Committee, something not so gorgeous, will hold a hearing today relating to the Biden impeachment inquiry. I don't know. For me, it's getting exhausting. House Democrats are expected to call Lev Parnas, remember him, an indicted associate of Rudy Giuliani, to appear. Two of Hunter Biden's former business partners are scheduled to appear as witnesses for Republicans. The president's son himself has been invited to testify today, but declined, citing his previous court appearances and the fact that Republicans have not called witnesses like Jared Kushner to testify about his business dealings during the Trump administration. Joining us now, Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He was the lead counsel in the first impeachment of former President Trump, which was actually about something. And I just have to ask you, Dan, I mean, Jared's Saudi money, Ivanka got patents fast-tracked from China while her father was president. I mean, doesn't Hunter have a point here?
Of course. Hunter Biden has never worked for the United States government and has never been in any business deals directly with a foreign government. On the flip side, you have Jared Kushner, who received $2 billion from the Saudi government for a business that he had no experience ever running before, right after he certainly catered to Saudi Arabia as the head of Middle East policy for the White House. You mentioned Ivanka Trump. The joke of this is this hearing is called influence peddling. And there's no evidence that Hunter Biden did anything to peddle any official influence or official action. On the flip side, the Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, the other Trumps, Donald Trump himself with $8 million of profits while he was president from foreign governments. That is the definition of influence peddling. And even Chairman Comer, in the interview with Hunter Biden, said that when we get to influence peddling, we will investigate Jared Kushner. Yet we will not see Jared Kushner today.
Oh, no, you won't. I mean, and to my point, Jonathan Lemire, it's not just Jared and the Saudi money and Ivanka and her patents and her businesses and her clothing lines or whatever, but the other kids. There's so much influence peddling going on. Where to begin? Some of them have mini media empires spreading disinformation. I think Lara Trump at the RNC now. I mean, where do we begin when it comes to the questions about abuse of power and influence peddling? Because here you have Hunter, who has made mistakes, who has absolutely used bad judgment, who says that himself, who wrote about it in his book. We know all about this. He wrote about it. And the way these Republicans keep beating this dead horse when other things are just not getting done, it's exhausting.
Yeah, and influence peddling, I mean, beyond the children. Let's remember, while Donald Trump was president and his hotel was right down the street there on Pennsylvania Avenue, foreign governments would rent out suites of rooms to basically buy influence. And we raised questions about the emoluments clause. And now, of course, questions about where Donald Trump may get money to meet his bond in the civil fraud trial in New York. So, Congressman Goldman, we should note the two of those people extended invites to appear today. Tony Bobulinski, who we heard the Trump campaign trotted out back in 2020, and another man who's going to be appearing from prison because he's serving a 14-year sentence for a fraud conviction. The White House has made it clear it is time to wrap this up. We had a very forceful letter from the counsel's office at the end of last week. What's your sense here as to timetable? Is this going to whimper out, or are Republicans just going to keep going?
Well, it's really shocking that we're having this hearing today. You have discredited and angry witnesses who have an axe to grind against the Bidens for one reason or another. Tony Bobulinski knew Hunter Biden for about 2 months and tried to engage in a business that ultimately failed. That was during 2017, I might add, when Joe Biden was not in office. And you have Jason Galanis, who's in jail for 16 years for 2 different massive fraud schemes, part of the Galanis crime family. His father went to jail for 27 years for fraud in the 1980s. These are incredibly discredited witnesses who are clearly motivated by some degree of revenge. And what I expect we will show today is that there is absolutely no merit to anything that they are trying to say. But it's more serious than that. It's not just a joke. It's not just embarrassing for the Republicans. This hearing and this impeachment investigation is a gross abuse of congressional power. We know that their central allegation was peddled through an FBI source by Russian intelligence that they have now glommed onto, and the more that they continue with this investigation, the more they are doing the bidding of Russia to try to meddle in our elections. And the Democrats will have Lev Parnas today, who was one of the ones who concocted these schemes with Rudy Giuliani. He has written a letter to Chairman Comer almost a year ago explaining why all of these allegations are totally bogus. Chairman Comer chose to ignore that testimony and rely on the Russian asset FBI source who had no corroboration. So this is a fishing expedition that is just continuing and is far more serious, especially when you look at the needs that we have around the world, supporting Ukraine, supporting Israel, supporting the Palestinian citizens in Gaza, trying to fund the government now almost half of the year into the year-long budget. It's embarrassing that nothing is getting done by the Republicans except they keep going with this partisan election meddling and interference using the official authority of Congress.
Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it. I know it can be very frustrating. Claire